Good evening, guys, and welcome to Revolutionary Change, pontificating with Pete style on Saturday night. As you guys know, Jen only wishes she could be here to enjoy my ranting and raving all over the place, but she's not, so you're just going to have to deal with me. Of course, our trusty Colin working in the background, and of course, our trusty mod, Brett Boyle, is here. Make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you share the stream. And I have to put on my trusty lighting. Now it looks a lot better. So I hope you guys are all doing well. Obviously, we've got a lot of stories to cover this evening. And we will have Kit Cabello from Hardlands Media joining us at the 8 o'clock Eastern Time hour. And we are going to cover, I've been wanting to have Kit come on to have a conversation for a little while now, specifically to talk regarding military issues going on right now. He is a Marine. And of course, with this saber rattling that's going on with Russia right now is not good, among other things. But I do think that it is important that we address a very important issue that just came up. And I want to say that this kind of came to light yesterday. Now, for those of you who are here, and make sure, again, that you smash that like button, make sure that you're subscribed if you are new. Obviously, appreciate you being here. And make sure you share the stream if you can. I think it is safe to say, as we now enter the month of August, and we are 3 months away, August, September, October, yes. We are 3 months away from the New York mayoral election for Zohran Mamdani to become the next mayor of New York City. Likely, but not a guarantee. And so right now, I would say it's highly likely he will win as long as the two primary establishment candidates are still in the race. That, of course, being current Mayor Eric Adams and establishment favorite Andrew Cuomo. One of them is likely going to get pushed out of the race. And it looks like, on paper, I could be wrong, but it looks like on paper, they have made a decision in terms of who they're going to push. And that person is going to be Eric Adams out of the race. Now, why do I say that? Well, it looks to me, based on what I'm seeing on paper here, that when a story like this drops, Mayor Eric Adams' re-election campaign submitted faked and fraudulently obtained petition signatures in his effort to secure a spot on the November ballot as an independent candidate, a Gothamist investigation has found. Well, let's be honest. The only reason a story like that is coming out now is because behind the scenes, the billionaire Zionist class is working overtime to try to figure out how they're going to take their best shot at Mamdani as the election will heat up once the summer ends. And since neither one of these guys appears ready to leave the race, and since Cuomo is clearly internally and externally polling better than Adams is, it is only natural that they are going to do everything in their capacity to push him out. And this clearly is what you would call, no pun intended, a trump card. This isn't get out of the race, we demand you. This is get out of the race or we're going to make this so much worse for you. We are using the legal angle to push you out. Is it legitimate? Possibly. But is it also possible that there were rogue agents, if you will, working on behalf of Adams since the beginning of his attempt to run as an independent candidate for mayor? I think that they always knew that there was a possibility that they were going to have to use whatever tools they had available to make sure that they got the candidate that they wanted. And so in this case, Adams clearly doesn't really have much left going for him. If you guys remember, he was an extremely unpopular incumbent who was assuredly going to lose no matter what. And so now that he decided to continue as an independent and shockingly Zohran won the nomination, I think it goes without saying that we are now looking at a situation where they had really no other option but to pump up Adams as much as they could before Cuomo ultimately decided that he was actually going to run as an independent as well. And once it was determined by Cuomo that he was going for it, they were going to wait and see, probably for a month or two, to see which way the winds were blowing and which of the two establishment candidates had the best shot at winning the election. And right now, it is clear as day that Cuomo is polling better. His name ID is stronger. And he's, granted, left office under scandal, which is never good. But again, he's a Cuomo. He's a commodity, a New York commodity for several generations, starting with his father, Mario Cuomo. And he's got his brother, Chris Cuomo. Who does Eric Adams have? He's got the Brooklyn Democratic Party machine, which almost assuredly is not going to support him if the powers that be tell him otherwise. And so Adams was under the illusion that, hey, I'm going to get all this money. I'm going to be a reborn candidate as an independent. But if any of you have been paying attention to his social media game, his just political acumen overall, has nothing, would have no chance. You keep him in the race along with Cuomo, that vote is going to be split more than enough for Mamdani to win. If this was a closer race, if this was a race where the percentages, let's say, were Zohran 33, Cuomo 28, Adams 25, and a couple of other guys sprinkled in to make up the other, 5% of the vote, obviously it would be near impossible to do that. But last polls that I've seen has him in the neighborhood. I believe Zohran is over 40%. He's at like 42%. Cuomo is at about 37 or 35%, somewhere in that neighborhood. Competitive for sure. And then Adams is trailing way behind at 15%. And then there's a lot of undecideds. So basically what you're looking at is a guy who they are assuming, could be wrong, but they are assuming he is, if Adams were to be pushed out of the race on a legal technicality, which clearly is the angle that they're going for here. There is no question that this is what they're trying to do. They want a legal technicality to push Adams out of the race, and the establishment Zionist billionaire class is under the illusion, right or wrong, that they are going to get the lion's share of that voting bloc to switch over to Cuomo. It's a reasonable calculation if you're desperate this late in the game. This is also why I do believe that Adams being pushed out, this is information that's coming to our attention right now that maybe a lot of other people are not necessarily aware of. And why I believe this is a significant development. If you guys saw the clip that we dropped a few days ago, Zohran has been actively out campaigning in the Bronx with Jamal Bowman. And because he's doing that, he is obviously actively doing everything he can to secure as much of the Black and Latino vote that is in the Bronx that he possibly can. And perhaps if Adams drops out of the race, a voice like Jamal Bowman's becomes that much greater to secure that part of the voting bloc. Politics is politics. People are going to play it as they see fit. And so I do believe that this is going to be a very unique development. And I do believe that this is what they're going to go all in on to try to push him out. I do. I think that this is how they're going to do it. Will it work? I don't know. I would be curious to hear what you guys in the chat think. If this is going to be one of those races that's going to just see a whole bunch of twists and turns, unique developments over the course of the next 3 months. But ultimately, I still believe that Zohran is going to pull it out. Will it be close to the extent that he'll have any type of a mandate to try to implement some of the policies he's been talking about, whether it is the free fares, the government-run grocery stores in each of the 5 boroughs. I don't know, but we will see. I do think that it's a development, and I think that this is what they're going to go with. Now, I don't expect Adams to roll over and die. I don't expect that at all. I expect him to fight. That's what he's always done. Adams will fight. He's 1,000% going to fight for his job. Will it work? He's already on the way out. But you always give credit to the ones that just don't go down without fighting. And so this is the beginning of many more stories that will appear in which the corporate Zionist billionaire establishment will move, no pun intended, heaven and earth to try to knock off Mamdani. They don't give a shit about Cuomo. They don't give a shit about Adams. They just care about stopping Zohran. That's it. That's the goal. And so, with that said, I am convinced that they, A, have made their decision. It's going to be Cuomo, not Adams. And B, on a legal technicality, if they can prove this, yeah, he's probably going to be out. So keep an eye out. This is the direction that the establishment has chosen to go in. And we'll see if it works. I don't really give a shit if it does one way or the other. Frankly, I would like to see Adams stay in the race because I think Zohran has earned the opportunity to prove us wrong. Because so far, I think he's done a pretty solid job. And I would like to see Zohran be the next mayor of New York City. Not just because I think he'll do a good job, not sure how much policy he'll actually be able to get done, but mostly because his victory is a complete referendum, if there ever was one, on the Zionist billionaire class. And that's why I support him and hope you will too. So with that said, we have a number of topics to cover this evening, and we've got a few right now that we are going to cover with a gentleman who I personally think very highly of, not just because he has served our country proudly in the most dangerous of the armed forces. Let's be honest, there are Marines and then there are the others. No disrespect, but it's the truth. But also because Kit Cabello and Hard Lens Media in particular were very good to my colleague and co-host Jen Perlman when she ran for Congress both times. And that is a testament to those that recognize what it means to be revolutionary, because that is the times that we are living in. And revolutionary times calls for revolutionary-minded people, and those that are not afraid to do the right thing in face of great odds. And so with that said, Kit Cabello, welcome back for the first time to Revolutionary Change.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the privilege of being on here. I hope everybody could hear me 5 by 5. It's always good to see more independent media networks out there. And more importantly, it is a real honor to see people start talking more about these subject matters, especially in this day and age where censorship, suppression, termination are becoming a very real reality. And I know that this is your show, so I don't want to go ahead and ramble. So thank you for letting me be on board, and shout out to everybody else that is from my audience. Gators in the chat. Come on, let's get some revolutionary Gators in the chat. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And folks, for Revolutionary Change, I'll return the floor to you, but for all their content, for all their content, this goes for every one of your favorite content creators. Don't forget to like, comment, and put a good watch time in the videos, because now that counts as a full view. I don't know if that news hit you guys yet, but YouTube changed how views are going to be done, and apparently August 13th they're supposedly putting in an ID check law, so where you might have to have an ID to check go on to YouTube now.
Hey, man, the Zionist Brigade, they're getting pretty desperate, but all I can say is we've been a suppressed channel ever since 3 years ago when Jen and Katie Halper put together that big live stream for Julian Assange. They're like,
oh no.
Put a little mark on those guys. Anytime they even attempt to hit the algorithm, out.
Oh no! I'm so sorry that happened. But see, that's the thing. I tell people, like, hey, look, I love independent media. I love what we do here. But if you're expecting roses and parades, you're going to be gravely disappointed, and it will be it will be a struggle. And you know, it's a miracle we're still around after all this. And, you know, I'm just wondering now, all right, next year, what lies in store? Because, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in August if YouTube actually goes along with their big brain plan with the ID checks, which is a lot of fun.
To be honest, you know, I do this because I believe in it. It's the same with Jen. If we can make a small living out of it, that's great. But that's not why we got into this. It's also why we see, without naming any names, a lot of other members of independent media. You can tell when their first objective is the bottom line. You can see the channels. We know who they are, where all you have to do is go to their homepage and it's 50 stories on Trump nonstop.
Yeah.
And forgetting that there's other problems in the world. And so by that measure, to me, there is a difference, at least with a channel like ours, a channel like yours, and a handful of others that are out there that we cross-pollinate with, as you like to say. We're on the right path. And we do the right thing because we've seen too much in this world. You know, I had applied to join the Army right after 9/11. I, at the 11 o'clock hour, decided not to go. You obviously were a Marine. You've seen what the devastation of our empire brings to the rest of the world.
Right.
And so I'm curious from your lens, and this was no pun intended. That was a good use of language right there.
It was. Actually, I was just going to say, damn, that was super clever right there.
And so when you see so much, especially from the Zionists, the pro-war but never lift a finger to defend the nation type of Zionist brigade that we see in this country, and the people who are chomping at the bit to send everyone else off but themselves to die for a cause that makes absolutely no sense. I can only imagine what it matters for those that live by the term Semper Fi, when they hear these other people saying it, and you think, did I really sign up to defend this nation for people like this? Because I'd have to imagine that is something that you've had to wrestle with over the past several years.
I want to be very clear about my service here. Okay, my MOS, my operation specialty, was rifleman. So I chose infantry. I chose frontline. I wanted to be in the infantry. My father, before he died before I was born. May he rest in peace. He was a Marine, but he was drafted in. He served in Nam, and he only told the story, at least according to at least how I remember it. He only told the story once to my mom, and that was it. He only told one story, and that was it. My great-grandfather, he was in World War I, but he was part of the Polar Bear expedition. It was over there in Russia. It's a whole other story altogether. I don't have time to really go into it. And then my grandfather's cousin, he served in the Marines, and my uncle, my grandpa's brother, was in the Army Air Force. So, you know, being in the military has been, at least on my mother's side, and a little bit, just so I know about my father. You know, it's been in my blood a little bit. So my time serving in the Marine Corps, I'm proud to say nobody got wounded. Nobody died. We got very lucky. Everybody came home. 2 tours. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of servicemen from previous wars and even now that would club me upside the head to add that kind of luck. And, you know, one of the things I do, because again, I never saw heavy combat. So everyone came home alive and well, one piece. I don't think I'll ever win the lottery, because that's true luck right there, true blessing. And we had a good command staff, from officers to the senior staff NCOs to the NCOs. Everyone did their job. The one thing that weighs me is, I tell this to people, especially for somebody who does want to join in, you will never be as lucky as me. You might not have that blessing or that luck, however which way you want to take it. And when I look at how you have a country that not only throws its veterans aside, because there are some problems. All right. Now I've had some good experiences with the VA, but I only can speak for myself. But when you have a mental health crisis in this country, not only affecting veterans, but civilians, when you have an economic crisis in this country affecting everybody, when you have a country that is struggling to provide for its people, and it purposely bails out the banks and the corporations and leads us to endless wars, you know, it is a sign of a dying empire. And the unfortunate truth is that we have seen this story before. Before my grandfather passed away, he would tell me, no, Kit, this isn't anything new. It's just the first time happening to you. This is the first time you're seeing it. I've seen this before plenty of times. And we are witnessing a nation that is only caring about providing for the sociopathic rulers who don't give a damn about the people. And they have successfully divided us. That's the phenomenal thing. Through the media, through politics, through corporations, through money, they have divided the people to where you or anyone else watching has you hate your neighbor. See, it's not team red or team blue, Democrat versus Republican, or the generations. It's a trick. It was the greatest scam ever, and they know that they can get away with it because of how easily manipulated we all are through the institutions that we grew up in. And so as a serviceman, I'm kind of taken aback at how we are tiptoeing closer to endless destruction. And perhaps maybe I'm overreacting towards the war in Ukraine, because I don't want to see World War III happen. I don't, but the war isn't stopping. And that was Trump's promise. He said he was going to end it in 24 hours. Yeah, right. And then you have the war in Gaza, which never should have gone on, should never have happened. But I fear that we are at the point to where you can't stop it. People are talking about it, and that's great. Everyone needs to talk about this. Everyone needs to witness the starvation and the suffering that's happening to the people, but all the while, the civilians that do live in that area. That goes for everybody, because the bloody cost is that this war is only going to lead to the next war. There is no stop button. Nobody's going to stop it because there's money involved. What did Thomas Massey say to Tucker Carlson? Everyone has an AIPAC babysitter.
Oh, yeah.
There's no pause button. And because of this, I fear that we will lose the concept of a potential peace or a ceasefire if it can be achieved. We have a people and a media that is at absolute shock. No matter where you scroll on your phone, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, you're going to see the suffering. And everyone in this chat is wondering, like, I don't like this. People are saying they don't like seeing this on their phone, but they don't know how to stop it because the politicians can't stop it because the system that's allowing it will not put an end to it. And you put up the Dukes. It's all about money. It's all about the dollars. And when you look at these politicians, how cowardly they are with doing insider trading and more money. You brought this up. Yeah, you did the hand gesture. That's what they're doing. It's that all simple, profit. Man. It's all profit. And I will end this on this note. When I look at our Congress, it doesn't shock me at their low approval rating. And I'm probably going to get some heat from this on your channel, maybe just a little bit, maybe from some historians. But I will say this, a nation that has legalized bribery and corruption, both parties have, by the way, both parties. I look back at antiquity and think, like, yes, this has happened before, but if I had to choose an empire, the Roman Empire, or at least the Roman Republic, at least when you had those egomaniac senators or council members or tribunes, when they would lead their army to a slaughter, because you had some people who had no business leading an army. I mean, at least they fought alongside their men and died. At least when they said they were going to war, they at least did it and died, however horrific. Our congressmen and women, go die. Now I'm going to make a buck off you. Oh, you came back? There's a street corner. Go beg for money. So I just have to say this, like, what is the incentive of this current system that we have that doesn't give a damn about the people? They don't care because that's what we've elected into our office. People who are sociopathic and don't care. I don't want to get, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. And I also think that the manipulation has been very effective. I mean, listen, we've seen it in our own independent media circuit. And I constantly bring this up, and I bring it up to you because I know you're close with Jimmy. And I said, listen, Jimmy and I are not close. We've had our break, and there were things he did regarding Jen that I will never forget or forgive. However, I think Jimmy is right about a lot of very important topics. And the most important topic he was right about was forcing the vote on Medicare for all at the end of 2020. Yeah, and when everyone was on board with it initially, even Sam Cedar and the like were like, you know what, this seems like a really good idea. I think we should go for it. And then AOC, who I guess was the mouthpiece, because it's never just one person, but the mouthpiece who goes out there and says, yeah, we're not doing this, so tell people to back off. And I'm thinking, I mean, Jamal Bowman went on with Brianna and said, it was Jimmy's fault. And I'm thinking, you got to be shitting me.
Oh, it
Like,
wasn't.
like you got to be out of your mind. Like, I understand that there are people that you may not necessarily get along with in a social setting, but what the fuck are you in this for? Are you in this to make money like every other scam artist on Capitol Hill? Or are you in this because you actually believe in a cause and you actually want to fight for something, even if you have to fight alongside people that you may not necessarily agree with in a number of instances? That is the sign of maturity, but also the sign of people who you recognize are doing this for the right reasons. Anyone who puts on that Marine uniform is more courageous than 99.9% of the people in the world. That's a fact. And so when you have the ability to use a platform and lead with the fact that not only do I talk the talk, I walk the walk as well, I think that these types of voices like yours are immensely important. We have to keep that perspective in mind. And so what we try to do here at our channel, as it has been growing, as I'm sure you've noticed.
Yes, and congratulations.
Thank you. Do not ever lose sight of the fact that there is a mission behind this. That there is under no circumstances, as long as this channel is allowed to exist, and we know that Google, because it's not YouTube, it's Google, can pull this out from underneath us at any moment, you know, we're going to continue to do and say what needs to be said. And I think that you can never lose sight of that.
All right. Now, I want to be very careful because you know what? Hold on. Let me just ask you this in private chat. Let me just ask you before because I cannot listen. I've helped out people when they had their channels get terminated, and I'll be damned if I had a fuel to the fire. So, can I?
Okay.
Hold on. Just asking that. If I get a no, or if you want me to do like a quiet name, I'll send it to you in private chat.
And let me tell you, if we could say Assange as many times as we've said that name, you could say that name as well. That's not going to change.
So be it. Hey, look, just for the record, I want to give respect. So here's the thing, because you talked about force of vote, Jimmy Dore, and everybody else. Now, look, I get it. In this media space, you know, not everyone's going to agree with each other. All right. And I get it. I am probably only going to speak for myself. I am open for a joint coalition of the left and on the right working together. And I think we have to now. Force the vote, I think it was a golden opportunity that was missed. And there was somebody else in the chat who said, like, look, I wasn't for it, but when it was happening, but now I am, and that's great. That's fine. I think we should do it. And force a vote is an effective tactic because Representative Matt Gaetz showed that it can work. And it's not Jimmy Dore's idea. It's from DSA's playbook. So everyone should know that Jimmy found it, not his idea. Thought it was a good idea. And you know what? For the record, when I first heard about it, I was like, well, wait, I'm a little skeptical about this. Let me read about it. And when I educated myself and did my own research, okay, well, all right, this idea that sounds good. To which I will also add on to here, I will gladly work and stand alongside with people on the right who are ticked off with Trump about the Epstein files. I want to know who these psychopath leaders are. I want to know who was associated with them. I know that there's disturbing imagery out there and no one should see that, but I want to know who the bastards are who are hurting those kids, who hurted those victims in the past. And if you're on the left and the right and you're with me on that because you want to get out the heavy industrial wood chipper or get out the heavy flamer and the heavy machine guns, let's go ahead and do it. It'll be a good bonding moment for this country because there are psychos who are in Congress who are saying that there's no such thing now. After 5 years since 2019, you can't talk about it anymore. We're not allowed to talk about it. It's not a good idea. It's not kosher. It's not great. It's definitely a no bueno. I get furious at that because I'm thinking, okay, if they can really bury this story, if they can hide it, God, man, they got us by the balls, and they will do whatever they want to us, and they will tell us to accept it, and we cannot accept it. And I know I can't bring peace to the media sphere, but it is our social responsibility to educate you, the audience, and you turn the audience to be leaders in your own community. That's what you need to do. Everybody that's watching this, you have to be your leader in your own right. You have to be a fighter in your own right. And I say this to my audience. After you're done watching my show, go watch somebody else. Listen to what I said, but hey, make your own opinion and do your own research. All right. I mentioned I had to read about force to vote because I didn't know. I was questioning like, gee, Jimmy, what is this? And before I made a statement, I educated myself on it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what it can do. This is a good idea. Let's do it. And that's why I want to say to your audience and everybody else. So Boom. I ramble. So don't. Hey, if you got to tell me to be quiet, go ahead.
No way, no way. I definitely, one of the reasons I obviously wanted to also bring here tonight is because there is a lot that is developing on the foreign policy side, aside from obviously our primary focus is always on Gaza and what's going on there. However, I don't think we can neglect how serious an issue this is right now. I feel that Trump is spiraling in a lot of ways.
Of course.
I can't really say for certain if he was necessarily involved in, this sort of, let's call it what it is. I mean, it's probably a pedo ring. We know that at the highest levels of society.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You didn't make a wrong statement. Like, call it what it is. They are.
When I lived in Delray Beach, which was 20 minutes from Mar-a-Lago, I still know a very attractive blonde who used to go to Mar-a-Lago. And she reached out to me recently and she said, those things that you hear about going on at Mar-a-Lago, it's all true.
Yeah.
Like, not even a question. And I thought, like, well, of course, because when you're at a certain level in society, you just think that you can't be touched. But now that the walls are starting to even close in on Trump, and it's not so much that what I find so glorious about this is that, the Democratic Party is dying in many ways because there will never be a better opportunity for them to raise money, to try to convince people to come back to their party. And it's not happening. And if it is not happening now, then you know for sure that when things eventually stabilize, that people will never trust them again. However, we are still stuck with a commander-in-chief who thinks that saber rattling is a smart move. And in reality, I think it's a very stupid move. And in this case, it's not just so much the saber rattling that he's trying to push with Russia, but apparently something that Medvedev had said. And now all of a sudden he's getting the nuclear subs surrounding different parts of greater Russia. Putin's responded that he's going to do the same thing. And then this shit comes up. India to maintain Russian oil imports despite Trump threats, government sources say. So now you've got India telling Trump, we're part of BRICS. We don't give a shit. Scroll up for a second, Colin. So sort of the highlights here are Indian officials deny policy change on Russian oil imports. Foreign ministry emphasizes independent energy decisions. Trump has threatened tariffs on Russian oil buyers at 100%, mind you. Russia remains India's top oil supplier. And so that's not changing. And I think BRICS is legit. You probably do as well. How do you see this unfolding? Because this is a very precarious position that Trump is putting us in right now.
Well, what's going to happen here between the United States and Russia is it's the same game before. It's a game of economics, right? And the Biden-Harris administration definitely failed miserably, especially when there was the opportunity to cease any kind of military actions between Ukraine and Russia. What this is to further instigate and give legitimacy to those previous sanctions that were implemented by the Biden-Harris administration. Yes, some of the sanctions under Trump's first term and under the previous Obama administration. This is just a way to add more legitimacy to that and for the continuation of these policies. The problem is now that we are seeing a hot war. And I wish I didn't even use that word, a hot war, but at least the continuous conflict between Russia and Ukraine that is draining lives and treasury because there has to be a reason. There has to be legitimate reasons out. Both sides are too prideful to give up because of the wounds that they have given to each other. And in turn, the United States, we gave trillions, I think at this point, trillions of dollars worth in aid and material, resources, weapons, etc. to Ukraine. No one's going to back down to this. This is a way to give an excuse for why the money's been spent and why we're probably never going to get anything back in terms of reimbursement. We probably won't be seeing an end to this conflict for maybe another 2 years. That's if it still continue to be this little back and forth between two countries. I mean, heaven forbid it gets to the point to where the talk of nukes are going to be used, but this is going to be a continuous conflict for maybe another foreseeable year or 2 years. And I think it'll be for nothing. I think money.
But I also think this is a huge development because India is very, very friendly with Israel. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they are basically telling Trump to stick it, to me, is also a reflection of you're only going to be there for a few more years.
Yeah,
we're thinking about our future. We know what we have planned. And what we have planned is that the United States is no longer going to dominate the globe economically. There is
Well,
going to be a new world order that is happening.
the issue is with Trump especially, and I said this before when he was defeated in 2020, is that he was going to run again. Now, everyone should not be surprised if he would win, and if he does win, theoretically, he is a lame duck president. I mean, he only did this out of pride and ego. In my opinion, it wasn't about making America great again. It was about restoring his ego and pride for losing in 2020. It was all about his image, and that's it. And that's all he really cares about. And in turn, he wants that. Why do you think he's been so overly aggressive and hasn't even stopped anything in regards to the conflict in the Middle East and Ukraine? Because he wants to be seen as a tough guy. Yes, he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, but he's not going to be achieving peace. And all these countries see him. He's going to be, once his term is done. And now, again, there's been all this talk and hype that he's going to continue on with his presidency. I mean, okay, if that happens, then we have a whole other different conversation. But the bigger issue is that, and this happens with nations and empires, there's always that decline. There's always that point of where a nation doesn't have its push and pull anymore, where it no longer has its influence. And if other countries are still going to buy money, or not buy, but get resources from Russia, for example, India getting that oil, well, India is legitimately, it is a sovereign nation. They could do whatever they want. At the end of the day, they're allowed to do their own things. They're not a sovereign state. I mean, they're not a state of ours. They're not a client kingdom. What they are is their own independent country, and they share the regional hemisphere with Russia and China and all those other nations surrounding it. So It's in their benefit to make that choice.
I agree. And so we will briefly read some of this article from Reuters, which is a left-leaning publication, but a decent one. Definitely got to give it up. Reuters does a decent job. India will keep purchasing oil from Russia despite U.S. President Donald Trump's threats of penalties, two Indian government sources told Reuters on Saturday, not wishing to be identified due to the sensitivity of the matter. On top of a new 25% tariff on India's exports to the U.S., Trump indicated in a Truth Social, boy, you know that publication, Truth Social's dead the second he's not president anymore, post last month that India would face additional penalties for purchases of Russian arms and oil. On Friday, Trump told reporters he has heard that India would no longer be buying oil from Russia. Well, that's a shame. I think in many ways he doesn't know what to do. He's been down this path before where he doesn't know who he can trust in his circle. I also think that the specter of the Epstein/Israel connection that lingers over his head is something that he is not going to be able to talk his way out of. I think it is so significant that it's actually going to shift politics forever once everything comes to light. And it will probably be just some, drip, drip, drip that will happen over time. But in my opinion, I think it's immensely significant. I really do. And by the way, guys, we did have over 300 people watching in the live. We only have about 135 likes. If you haven't hit that like button yet, please make sure that you do. Smash it. Let's get to 500 live viewers tonight. It's Saturday. What else could you possibly want to do on a Saturday night?
And everyone, please, for their clip videos, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off here, but for their clip videos, you got to like, you got to add in a comment, and put in some watch time in here. I know I say this to my audience, but you're going to do this for all your favorite content creators because they're changing the rules. What counts as a view is interaction now. Liking, dropping a comment, and watch time. No more than 8 minutes. I know it's a lot. I'm sorry, folks. I remember when things used to be fun and a little bit easier, but these are the rules that they're implementing, and it's a whole other story altogether. Sorry about that.
No, please. I think it's important. I mean, listen, they change the rules all the time. You got to adjust. That's the way it is.
And it's just 8 years in the trenches, 8 years in the trenches doing this. It's like, I got that 1,000-mile stare, man.
Yeah, no, without question. And so justifying India's oil purchases from Russia, a second source said India's imports of Russian grades has helped avoid a global surge in oil prices. That is significant. See, that's a big part of it, which have remained subdued despite Western curbs on the Russian oil sector. So even if Trump is issuing these 100% tariffs on Russian oil exports, India is still saying, no, we're going to buy it from them. And we are the most, they are. Many people may not even know this. India is the most populous nation in the world. And so if India is buying their oil from Russia and not the United States or from any of the satellite nations of the United States, that is only to the globe's benefit and not to the Western Empire's benefit. And so, unlike Iranian and Venezuelan oil, Russian crude is not subject to direct sanctions, and India is buying it below the current price cap fixed by the EU, source said. Again, global economics, not something we focus on too much, but in this case, it is very significant. The New York Times also quoted two unnamed senior Indian officials on Saturday saying there have been no change in Indian government policy. Indian government authorities did not respond to Reuters' request for official comment on its oil purchasing intentions. However, during a regular press briefing on Friday, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said India has a steady and time-tested partnership with Russia. So to me, that just screams we don't really care what type of saber rattling Trump is going to do. We don't care how many nuclear subs he's going to put in, the Arctic Sea or who knows where else. To them, their attitude is he's all bluster. He's not actually going to do anything because when push comes to shove, money and power is what matters more to these oligarchs than anything else. Mm-hmm. You start dropping nuclear weapons, you might as well just kiss society goodbye. You won't have any money to spend that'll be worth anything anymore. So I give India credit, obviously, for fighting back. I'm just in so many ways, man, I'm just tired of Trump's shtick. I'm just tired of it.
You know what? I'll push back. I'll say, no, I'm not. I'm not actually. I think there's a series.
There's a silver lining here. Tell me.
There is. There's a series that I used to watch with my grandpa. Occasionally, like we wait once a year to rewatch it again. It was called I, Claudius, right? Done in the 1970s. It was a who's who of British actors in it, and it was the Game of Thrones of its era. But when it got to the point to where Caligula, all right, I, Claudius is about the Julio-Claudian dynasty. And when it got to the point of Caligula, I think it was maybe Antonia or maybe Livia or maybe Claudius who said, Caligula is the rash that is the sign that something's wrong with the body politics of Rome. Trump is the rash showing that there is something wrong with the body politics of our Rome, which is the swamp called DC. And you have to remember, Trump is probably the most transparent president we've ever had. And I say this controversially because we know who he was long before he ever sat upon the throne. This is who he's always been. This is how he's always acted. And yet, remember, he was one time viewed as a media darling, still is in some other media outlets, but he is what's wrong. I find it refreshing because at the end of the day, the people in Congress, the real sickness, that's who they are, but they succeeded in covering that mask up. What I want the audience to know is that put up aside all the pleasantries, remove the mask, and all those people in Congress, they're just like him. They're just really good at hiding it.
Absolutely.
So when you see Trump, just remember, there's 500 other plus psychopaths that are just like him that have hidden under your sight for decades, not just years, decades. And so I look at it and I'm thinking like, okay, if it's one person here, Trump, come on, people, let's not protest against him. Look at all Congress because they're still passing his laws. They're still living their best lives. They got gold-plated health care and they don't give a damn, but they will tell you, oh, yes, well, we really do care about the American people. Oh, yes, we have to form a committee to talk about a committee to vote on this issue. But first, we need to have this little subcommittee to talk about it. That's a big FU. No, I think I find it refreshing. It's just I'm just curious, like, when's it going to be enough from the American people? Like, wait a minute. Trump's doing this. What about those other people that allow it? I mean, what about those people that are supposed to fight him? Air quote, fight him. What do you do?
Well, we spent several years, if you remember, trying to explain to people that, you say Trump is the greatest threat in the history of mankind, and yet
no, he's not.
The Democrats continually gave him the biggest military budget you've ever seen. And I'm thinking, yeah, that doesn't add up. And it's very tough to pierce these bubbles that these people are living in. But being that you're in Chicago, and obviously the Chicago suburbs are some of the most neoliberal in the entire country, maybe the world. These people are creatures of comfort. Like, to them, that's the most important thing, and Trump makes them uncomfortable. Or, as again, a little Jimmy reference, they see their shadow and they don't like it. They don't like what they see, and it makes them very uncomfortable, on top of not liking how he makes them feel.
Okay, go. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
Well, when you talk about Chicago, I want to make it very clear, especially to those on the right and my fellow libertarians. I love you guys, but Chicago is not this communist, socialist, Leninist, Marxist, democratic, socialist utopia. It's not. It's a neoliberal corporatist hellhole. But there is a change happening in the city, and I'm curious to see how it will play out. Yes. Neoliberalism running amok here. I remember the DNC convention here in Chicago. Myself, Jimmy was here. I think Russell from Due Dissidence. There was a lot of us here talking about what we were seeing in Chicago. But the system is breaking apart. It is failing, and it's not pulling in the new generation to support the Democratic establishment. And for the first time, I remember even covering this on November 5th. On election night, 2 districts in Chicago turned red. I mean, if my grandpa was still alive, he'd be like, "Oh, I've never." Yes, his mind would be blown. The only time I've ever seen him shocked when something happened politically was when Indiana turned blue in 2008. He said, I remember that too. I remember this perfectly well. He was drinking a martini, says, and he was an old man, so he's from a different generation. He said, I never thought I'd see a black man become president. This is 2008, right? Sure. And then when he looked at the map, he was a little bit drunk. He says, "Kit, what color is Indiana?" I said, "It turned blue." He said, "Oh, forget seeing a black man become president. I never thought I'd see Indiana turn blue for a black man who wants to become president. Never mind." Like, he was shocked. He was like, "Are you sure it's blue? Are you sure it's blue?" And the point I'm getting to, though, with the whole idea of the creature comfort, is that in Chicago, you are seeing the creatures of comfort losing their influence.
Yes.
Now they are still trying to hold on, but there is a growing disdain for the Chicago Democrat machine. And I'm very curious to see how 2027 will play out. And I know there's a group called Flip Chicago Red. They're predominantly African-American, but Republicans who, mind you, I actually interviewed one of them. And apparently the Illinois GOP, at least as it stands right now, until I get a further update. So what I'm telling you what one of them said to me on an interview for our show, the Illinois GOP never reached out to them. They did this. They turned those 2 districts red by themselves. And if they're able to pull that off, it makes me wonder, well, gee, if a Republican adjacent group can turn 2 districts in Chicago red, can the Libertarians or the Greens or Independents or Democratic Socialists succeed in doing the same formula? In Chicago, the grasp of the daily machine that happened so many years before I was born is slipping, and you could see that at the national level because people are not buying into what the Democrats are doing because they're not authentic. They have never been able to successfully use the political capital that they gained in 2016, and all that power and momentum has since dissipated into different other groups. And that's what what we need to see happen is people step up and take advantage of this opportunity, because one day Trump will be gone. You just can't use him as your boogeyman, but then you can't allow the Democrats and Republicans to recover, because then you'll have the creatures of comfort, the neoliberals, then dictating terms to all of us that we have to accept the way things are. If we don't jump on this opportunity to dismantle it in any which way form we can, we're going to be old men talking about how we missed this opportunity, and we cannot afford that.
I don't think we're going to miss it. I think that it's too obvious now. And I think as long as there is this sort of understanding, this coalition, if you will, we're very close, with Keaton and Russell, and, we've crossed over with them.
Shout out to Due Dissidence. Much love to them.
And they, there's others out there that do a really good job. Bottom line, there just has to be an understanding. That's what it's about. You don't want to cross-pollinate. You don't want to lose any of your money. Okay, fine. But never forget that if you're on a mission, you got to work with other people. You got to build this network, if you will, because it is on us to sniff this out. Jen and I have been talking about constantly that we already know where ground zero is going to be for the Democratic Party come the next major election. It's going to be Michigan. It's either going to be Slotkin, it's going to be Whitmer, or it's going to be Carpetbagger Buttigieg. And they're going to put a lot of stock into that. They're going to put a lot of stock into them. They are going to put a lot of stock probably into Shapiro in Pennsylvania, because they sure as hell, it's not going to be Fetterman. That, although it should be, just for, listen, if we're living in idiocracy, you might as well just go the full Monty as far as I'm concerned and have Fetterman run. But the point is, the future that we seek is not going to come through the Democratic Party. People need to understand that. And the more we say it, and as long as we have a path forward that is concise and effective, people are going to start to listen. Because for what happened in the early stages, which obviously should have started at which I was at. You were at the convention in Chicago. I was at the convention in Philly in 2016.
I was there too. I was there too.
I'll give you a real throwback. Listen, I know you guys are upset right now, but we have to get behind Hillary Clinton for president of the United States. And I remember that the people were booing him, like Bernie.
Oh, man. I remember Philly. It was our first. Before Hard Lens Media became into existence, it was like we tried something before Hard Lens, and myself, Daniel, we went on a road trip, and we interviewed a lot of people who were delegates and supporters, and they all had the same story. It's like listening to people who've been abused. They've been stalked, harassed, assaulted. People being threatened with anonymous phone calls like, hey, we know where you work. We know where you live. Like, they're all telling us the same story. Men and women, different generations. That was 2016. And, we're just thinking like, holy cow, Bernie, your legion is under attack. And, a little bit side note, we were, I got to be very quiet about this, but we were given a task to do some filming inside the convention center. And we got inside. That's all I want to say. We got inside. We didn't do any secret spy stuff. We actually went through the front door. Security wasn't all that great, but we went through the front door. And, I remember just being in there and I just saw the vitriol. I saw Bernie Sanders supporters and Green Party people being attacked.
Yep.
Being attacked by Clinton people. I mean, yes, even women being pushed down on the floor. And I'm like wondering, holy cow. And I remember walking out of it and I just remember thinking, oh, there's a 50-50 chance Trump could win this. Oh my God. Like, after being treated this way in Philly, because, we were supposed to do some filming in there. What was supposed to go down didn't go down. There was I think that's when one of those group chat things got intercepted, or like a lot of Bernie Sanders groups on the last day of the convention were being fully infiltrated and sites were being shut down. That's what I remember. I'm getting senile. I'm getting old now. I'm an old man kid.
Well, I can tell you that the conversation that I will never forget was when I ran into Jeff Weaver. And I thought to myself, oh, no. Okay, now I can see why a lot of what Bernie should have done, but didn't do, where a lot of that advice was coming from. And it's easy to see when you surround yourself with certain people. Like, I love Nina, and I always will. But I know that Nina has surrounded herself with people that did not give her the best advice. And the same is true for Bernie.
Yep.
The same is true for a lot of others. And that is always the sin, as Jen and I like to say, because we went out to help Nina in her first and second go around in Cleveland. And when we went out there to help her the second time, and we walked into the campaign headquarters, and the first person we see as soon as we walk in there is Jeff Weaver, I said, we might as well just go home. Because if you think that there's any chance that she's going to win this, it's not going to happen. And that's the sad truth.
I know the feeling, because we've learned some lessons too when it comes down to Democratic politics here in Illinois. Not once, but twice. I remember seeing one person. I won't say what office they're in. They're not in city office though, so I'll give that away. But I remember seeing this one person. I saw him in a lot of activist groups, and then one day he gets a nice little cushy seat. And I remember saying like, "Hey, can I interview you?" And he was like, "No." It was sort of like, no, I know how your channel operates. And the thing is, I was more of like, hey, I just want to interview you. It's been a long time. You'd be surprised. You'd really be surprised how knives out a lot of the activist groups here are, and a lot of other places here, like a lot of other organizations here too. Because my criticism for at least how we can get changes. Like, look, people, you got to stop protesting in front of Trump Tower. Here in Chicago, you just can't protest in front of this private building. Bring that fury to the mayor's office. Bring that fury to these federal building plazas. Like, do that. But don't just be marching to Trump Tower just because it's Trump Tower.
It makes them feel good. It's not about if they get anything done. It's about, oh, look at me. I gave the finger to the Trump Tower and I put it on social media and everybody loves me. It's like, no one gives a shit. No one should.
Absolutely.
But what I will tell you is that the one federal legislator you did have in your neck of the woods that was actually pretty decent was Marie Newman. And she actually shared with Jen because she was a guest on our channel.
Yeah, we interviewed her before too.
Yeah. So and of course, it just goes to show you, she's decent because they got her out of there pretty fast. They figured that she wasn't really playing ball the way that she needed to. And so when she got there, right when she got to the Hill, she was confronted by Wasserman Schultz on the House floor. Basically went right up to her in front of the entire delegation and said, don't you ever fucking talk to that woman ever again. And Marie looked at her like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are you? But that's Debbie. And she's one of several of the old guard in the Democratic establishment that basically runs this thing like Knights of the Round Table. So when people act like Trump is the end-all be-all problem here, I'm like, no, Trump is just exposing exactly what the rot of the system really is. Like, he's just one guy. He may be a bombastic jerk at times, but make no mistake, there are a lot more sinister people in positions of power than he is.
Yeah,
he just
there's one thing else too I want to bring up here, because if we're talking about politics and us here in Illinois, when it comes down to the mayoral race here in this city, it is when every single faction comes out to play and all the dirty laundry is brought out. And it's so far the last two elections have been nothing but it's almost like a Clash of Kings from the second book of Game of Thrones, because there's so many people. Like, who do you side with? And it's very important. Like, if you're going to be in Chicago politics, especially part of the Democratic Party, you have to choose carefully. Now, the thing is, theoretically, nobody's a Democrat running for Chicago mayor. You only get the D around your neck when it's finally done. That's it. Everyone's an independent, but it's all part of the same machine, though. That's a fascinating thing. So that way it doesn't show like there's a lot of infighting, but it's just a fascinating little tidbit of information to give to people.
Well, since we're talking about it, we might as well address it. I mean, I am starting to notice that some of these other channels are trying to evolve, but we know that they're very close with the Democratic establishment.
Okay,
and if
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, so if there's a channel out there that I would definitely say is the whisperer for the wine mom liberal contingent of this country, it's definitely that I've Had It podcast with Jennifer Welch and some other person. And I've had to address this once before, only because the hypocrisy that came out of this person's mouth was insane. And so she's been, trying to, again, when the tide's turning, you see how people try to evolve. You see their commentary changes. And so she's trying to act like I'm on Team Zohran and I love Zohran and this and that. And the Democratic establishment is doing this, that, and the other thing. But there is shit that comes out of their mouth that is so obvious that there's a reason why people don't like you, because you are elitists. And when your elitism oozes out of your pores, people are like, I don't give a fuck what party you're in. I don't care what faction you're in. Whatever you're involved in, I'm not going to be a part of it. And if you're in the leadership committee that people are answering to you, get me as far away from it as you possibly can. So this is a clip that we drew from just the other night. Some of it's good. Some of it's really fucking bad. And so you got a hodgepodge. So here we go.
Is watching genocide being committed by Israel and the United States of America in Gaza against Palestinian children, and the dam is breaking. Let's listen to Jon Stewart talk about this.
This has rocked I feel like a crazy person. I feel like I'm watching something that is so self-evidently inhumane and horrific. And to be told that I have to shut up because I risk the Jewish state by speaking out, I would say the opposite. I think not. I think they're putting the likelihood of a surviving Jewish state much more at risk with this type of action. I think they're the ones that are being if you want to define Netanyahu, with the definition of anti-Semitism, would probably have to bomb himself.
I'm just going to say, if you want to save one member of the liberal establishment, and you can only save one, Jon Stewart's my pick. That's that's my.
I mean, okay. Look, I'm happy to see this change, but it's just sort of like what I said that because when the first No Kings March happened, I was going to cover it. I was going to do a live stream coverage of it, but then I got sick to my stomach because I almost yelled out, "Where the hell have all of you been?" Because it's good to see everybody out there, and it's good to see people talk. I'm glad I'm seeing. It's just, man, you guys are late on this. You're really late. You were needed like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, to really be dropping these truth bombs. Okay. And I know I shouldn't be using the word bomb, but no, you guys were needed to be speaking about this. So it's fine that people are seeing it because they're reading the room. Because remember, we both been in this business for quite a while. 8 years of doing this, I have seen how people do the flippity flop, the flip, the switch, the change when they decide to change their narratives because they realize public opinion, it will not condone just being indifferent to it. No. You want to get on board, but see, there's always a price, because then it's like, oh no, I've always been on this side. I've always thought like this. It's either you're consistent or you're not, or you just got to say like, hey guys, I thought this and I didn't know. But you're never going to get that from people. You know that? You're never going to get that.
So let's hear what the wine mom has to say. That's just, with all due respect, Mrs. Welch, you're just going to be known as wine mom. Like that's what I'm calling you from now on.
Okay.
So everybody is seeing these images coming out of Palestine, and it is absolutely horrific. And what needs to be put at the center of this is that we have both Democratic and Republican politicians who are beholden to AIPAC that shut the fuck up and don't speak out about this because they're bought and paid for by the lobbyists. And this is the only bipartisanship that I see in the United States Senate and the House of Representatives is an Israel first policy. And that Israel first policy is a complete genocide of Palestine.
That is as concise and succinct a statement as you can possibly make. I agree with it 100%. I can also show you photographs from the convention in Chicago, not from where you were standing, but from where Chris Cuomo, who only did that segment because he's a jilted lover, and pointed out where all of the rich people happened to hang out, and she was hanging out in one of those luxury boxes. And who was she hanging out with? Dan effing Goldman.
Of course. Of course, man.
I appreciate her saying this, but it's about, I don't know, 20 months too late, I suppose.
Well, it's a save face because no one can hide it anymore. And the issue is, and I've brought this up on my show, and I'm trying to find a better way to articulate this, but I'm pretty sure you and I are, I'm 40 years old, so we're about the same age almost, give or take a few, right? Okay. So then that means, you've read your fair share of comic books, watched some science fiction movies, action movies, TV shows about when there's real evil, like, oh my goodness, it almost seems impossible, but the good guys gather together and they stop it. Evil must be opposed. And I think for us mentally saying this, because we've seen the entertainment, we learned the lessons from our entertainment, like stopping the bad guys, justice must prevail. When something evil is happening, it's got to be stopped. But the problem is, it's putting us all in a real messed up spot, is that we're not stopping it.
No,
we're not opposing real terror. We're not opposing the inhumanity that man is doing upon his brother. And for a nation, I think that leaves us in a very confused spot, because in turn, what I want everyone to understand is they are already doing the pain and suffering to us too. Maybe not to the level what's happening to the people in Gaza, but Our politicians will sell us down the river. They will shut down our schools. They will make sure you drink poison water. They will make sure your children breathe poison air. They'll make sure that you're exposed to chemicals. They'll make sure your house is burnt down. They'll make sure your house is blown away through a hurricane. They don't care about you. See, the thing is, we're all in a line. We just ain't next, but our time is coming. And I think that the fear is that people don't know how to react or organize because we've been trained to listen to the system of establishment that was passed from our grandfathers to our fathers to upon us as well.
And big shout out, of course, always to our good friend Jordan Chariton at Status Coup News. And we have a lot of Status Coupers in the chat.
Mhm.
For every East Lansing, there is a Flint.
Mhm.
For every Lexington, there is an East Palestine.
Mhm.
For every Chicago, there is an East Chicago.
Yes.
And that is the real secret sauce, if you will, to this broken capitalist system.
Mhm.
If you think things are good on one side of town, like it is on the northeast side of Chicago, well, go to the southeast side of Chicago and see how the people who have to slave themselves to death live so that the people on the northeast side of Chicago can live like kings and queens.
Well,
That's the secret.
The thing is, and the thing is, like, now there's problems happening on the north side too, because there's a whole system of collapse. Because, just to be clear about what's happening in my city, my wonderful city of Chicago, and oh boy, I don't want to tear up because I'm thinking about the good old days. But the thing about the old days is that they're the old days.
You mean when the Bulls won 6 titles out of 8 years?
Oh, come on. Don't hurt me. We're in my heart right now. Come on. Come on.
Let me tell you something. I will be shocked if you see another one in your lifetime. Michael and Scotty gave you the best years of your life.
Are you kidding me? As a kid, I loved every single minute of it. God, those are some good days. But when you look at Chicago, because you have environmental racism, okay, you do have hyper segregation. See, Chicago is not only segregated; it's a hyper segregated city, and I think even now you could still do it. But if you start off in the way up on the north side with the red line, go from the red line from the north side all the way down to the south side, you'll see a gradual decline and destruction of the north going all the way down to the south side. You'll see schools shut down, homes shut down. It is almost night and day.
Dude,
and
it's been a number of years since I was there, but I remember when I flew into O'Hare and I took the train into the city, and you go through the Northwest Ghetto in order to get to downtown Chicago. And let me tell you, man, that is a very, very rough area. Every single building is tagged with the Chicago disciples, with the Latin kings. It's like this is what the city's become, and this is on the north side. When people think, "Oh, it's just the south side," no, not really.
No, it's everywhere. It's all over the city now. It's all over the city now. And Mayor Brandon Johnson, I will give him this. He is an all-star professional. I've never seen any mayor become more hated than Lightfoot. I mean, if you become more hated than Lightfoot, you are a professional. How you could pull that off is beyond me, because Lightfoot was hated by everybody. But now people are looking at Brandon Johnson and they hate him more because of the failure of his leadership. He talked about bringing progressive change. He kept people on from the Emanuel administration and the Lightfoot administration. He didn't bring in his own people. Of course, he did in some of the administrative office, but others are from Emanuel and Lightfoot. He didn't bring in change. He kept things the way they are. And it doesn't come as a surprise that his whole entire administration has been an absolute shite show. I mean, I've never seen a mayor quickly deflect and blame others as much as I've seen Brandon Johnson. In my opinion, he is a one-term mayor. And even then, just as a side note, Flint, Michigan, there's still lead in Chicago's drinking water, and it's up to the homeowners and renters and everybody, well, not renters, but landlords if they want to if you got lead pipes, you got to pay for it out of your own pocket. City ain't going to help you out.
And that, as we go back to the clip, this is where Mrs. Welch, I don't think truly could ever appreciate the real issues here, because she was a reality TV star. She lives in the wealthiest part of Oklahoma. She doesn't understand and could never understand what it's like to live like this. And that's why, while her is certainly appreciated saying the right thing, it's like there's a reason you're a Johnny-come-lately to this, because now you're realizing that you might be on the chopping block. And the second that starts to happen, that's when you notice the shift.
It's unbelievable to me. We have one independent senator that came out. I mean, seeing these images, you cannot look away and think, oh, yeah, we need to fund Israel, in my opinion.
Well, and this has been going on for a very, very, very long time. And the Democratic Party is so complicit in this. And there's a huge problem with the base. So many senators speak out about the human rights violations in deporting people. But then when it comes to this, where you see starving children, they don't say a word. I'm so sick of the Democratic establishment politicians treating their base like we're just as dumb as the MAGA base.
God. Wait.
And there is the problem. That's the problem. They're just as dumb as the MAGA base. No, we're much smarter than they are. Okay, let's say that you have a significant portion, or not even a significant, but a chunk of the voting base that happens to support Trump or support the GOP that's in the heartland of the Deep South. And their entire existence in many ways is centered around the church. Did a lot of these people have a choice in terms of how they were brought up? She speaks of people that are the so-called ignorant side of politics as if they had a choice to not get a formal education, which is why Jen always points out how when you see these children, these psychopathic Israeli children hating on Palestinians, where in the fuck do you think that comes from? You think that that's their decision? No, it's the culture they're brought up in. It's a cultural problem, which is why when people talk about the issues in the Black community, it's not that they're Black, it's that there is a cultural problem in certain communities. And no one wants to talk about that part. It's always, well, MAGA sucks, and so the hell with these guys. And it's like, no, lady, you are a privileged white woman in a wealthy community. You do not ever get to talk about we're smarter than the MAGA people.
I would go ahead and argue and make a statement here, and that is, you know, when you hear these people who say like, oh, well, we're smarter than the MAGA base, I'm like, you know what? You can't really judge a person, because I've spoken to my fair share of Trumpers. You know, if anything, I never underestimate anybody where you stand politically. I've seen my fair share of idiots on the left and on the right. See, stupidity takes many forms, just like evil, as does intelligence and kindness. I remember when our most recent termination, I had like maybe 10 different Trump supporters, like diehard Trump supporters, saying, hey, I don't like what happened to you. What can I do to help? Hey, I don't like this. What's going on? And actually become diehard viewers of the show. They don't like anything I say, but it's like, no, I see where your integrity lies. I could work with you. And that's fine. That's fine. I would say to everyone here, especially how she's trying to turn this new leaf over, like, okay, fine, but you're still making the same mistakes. You're calling people morons without even realizing that you're calling people morons, because you just can't say, well, oh, the Democrats are treating their base like MAGA. No, the Democrats have always done this. I remember 2016. I remember 2020. The Democrats waving their fingers saying, oh, you got to vote for Hillary Clinton. Oh, you got to vote for Biden. Or what? Are you a racist? Are you a Trump supporter? Are you evil? Like,
I mean,
no.
honestly, anybody who votes for Hillary Clinton, I can't really say you're that smart.
Well, okay. Fair enough. But hey, look, people could change. Because you know what? I'm gonna keep it real. When I was in college, I did vote for Obama twice, and I'm like, oh.
Obama got me once. He got me in 08.
Yeah, he got me twice. Obama. Listen, folks. Let me be clear. This is Obama here on the show. And let me be clear. I got kicked twice. Go ahead and vote.
The American people deserve to have a life with dignity.
There you go.
That involves me not having a multi-million-dollar mansion on Martha's Vineyard, I can't help you. Just got to call us. You got to call it what you got to call it as you see it. That's what I say.
Because we're not.
Exactly.
We see what's happening. We see all of the propaganda coming out of Benjamin Netanyahu's mouth. We see senators posing with Benjamin Netanyahu. We watch the AIPAC tracker and we see how much money they're getting, and they don't speak out about it. So you don't have any credibility when you want to speak out about egregious human rights violations that are happening in the United States of America right now by deporting people and sending them to concentration camps. You speak about that with, just so much passion and enthusiasm, and you're horrified about it. Then when it comes to this, it's crickets, and they think we're dumb. And that's the problem. I think every Democratic politician needs to do something bold and get rid of all AIPAC money. Right now, in this time in American history, in global history, it is time to get rid of AIPAC. These people want to take people like Jon Stewart, who's a critical thinker, who is a Jewish comedian, and tell him that he can't speak out against egregious genocide that he's seeing with his own eyes and hearing with his own ears because he's Jewish, and you're not allowed to speak that way. AIPAC is the thought police, and I'm just going to go and say, I don't see that big of a difference between AIPAC and the Nazis. And let me just keep building this case. Next up, here's a Israeli hardliner. He's an Israeli.
Before we continue, and I will continue it, if you want to know who's a bigger psychopath than Netanyahu, Ben Gvir is an even bigger psychopath.
Minister of National Security. And here's what he says about Palestine. They should be crushed to pieces, starved to death, and not resuscitated with humanitarian aid that gives them oxygen. This doesn't get covered in the mainstream media because there is a whole quiet agreement that you can't talk about Israel. You can't talk about their war crimes. You can't talk about how they just openly and brazenly want to move 2 million people out of the Gaza Strip so Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Jared Kushner can develop it into real estate. And this is so disgusting. And until the Democratic Party gets moral clarity on this, we will continue to lose election after election after election. But
here's the problem. She's right on the one hand, but she's framing it, and this is why I wanted to point this out, and why, if anybody is a supporter of the Democratic Party, and especially if anybody who is secretly watching our channel now that happens to identify as a liberal, a comfortable urban or suburban liberal, and you happen to like Jennifer Welch, okay, keep this in mind. She isn't framing this from a completely humanitarian perspective. She's framing it from a perspective of how can we make the Democrats successful and the Republicans failures as a result?
Yeah. And the thing is, you cannot fix the system with the Democrats. You cannot fix it by then voting in Republicans, and then you can't just go bringing it right back to Democrats. It's all got to be torn down. The system is designed to make you think that one side is better than the other, and everyone just decides to fall asleep and then give the other side a chance. This is how history repeats itself. What needs to happen on a national level, and that means everybody watching. How many people we got watching right now live on all the socials? We got 300 people. 300 people. Okay, so good. 300 people. Here's your homework assignment. The most impossible task that I will give you, and I give this task to my audience too. You're going to have to talk to your friends and neighbors, or easy that. Step outside your comfort zone and wake people up. Most of the time, people tell you to F off. Some will pretend to listen, and then there will be the select few that will hear. And in that, you must build your coalitions. And in that, we must talk about citizen ballot initiatives, building movements and organizations not connected to DC, and dare I say it, going even one step further, actually breaking away from the two-party system and solving our own problems through citizen ballot initiatives, through our own mutual aid and community outreach. That's what we have to do. We have to remind ourselves that we are the masters of this house. And right now, the way the politicians are representing us, it's almost, not almost, they are showing the world that we condone and support these sociopathic policies, both foreign and domestic. And I was always taught that when you walk outside your house, you're representing your family, you're representing your people, you're representing your values. When these congressmen and women go before the international stage. They're representing us. And seeing just how they are indifferent, Democrat and Republicans are, to the starvation in Gaza, homelessness here in America, ongoing wars. They're saying to the rest of the world that the American people are okay with this and we are giving them legitimate authority.
And if we're being even more direct, what Jennifer Welch is not doing, which is why I have said time and again that you can't go back to the Democratic Party, A, because they're not going to change. And even if they were going to stop taking AIPAC money, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, again, is one of the best examples of this because as wretched and disgusting as she is, she's also a very shrewd politician. She took money hand over fist from the worst of the worst, would make the most insane fascist republic, or just insane fascist, forget Republican, forget any of that shit, just the most insane fascist blush. She was funded by Big Sugar. She was funded by private prisons. She was funded by maybe the biggest scum suckers in all of not just Chicago, but every major city in the country, payday lenders. Like she took money from those guys hand over fist. What did she decide to do once she was caught up with Jen running in those congressional races? She started facilitating all of her capital through law firms. That's what ended up happening. And so the law firms will wash that money without even asking questions, including a law firm that Jen used to work for, but would not support her because they support Wasserman Schultz because, again, it's all about money and power. It has nothing to do with moral clarity. So what Mrs. Welch is still not understanding is that you want this so-called moral clarity to feel better about yourself and have them stop taking the AIPAC money, but in reality, you've got 75% of the Democratic Party that is in bed with the Israel lobby. And I didn't hear a single word come out of her mouth about how we have to get rid of all of these Democrats that are taking the Israel lobby money and are being accessories or not outright accomplices to genocide. That's what you're not going to hear. And again, it's not just her. There's plenty of others out there that have these platforms. I guarantee you, Don Lemon, Brian Tyler Cohen, David Pakman, I can name them all. They all say the same bullshit. She just says it in a way that appeals to a very specific demographic that is affluent, that donates, and they all vote. So that's the reason why her voice is significant. And you know what? When we drop a clip and it gets 25,000 views, there's a chance that she's going to see it.
Good.
She might stew about it. She might not like what she hears, but you know what? Plant that seed. Plant the seed. You never know.
And the thing is, like, look, maybe this is my inner I got very few heartstrings left in me. Okay. Like they're all withering away, but I'm still open for full-on dialogue. Everybody, come on. You could change your ways, but the thing is, you just can't go ahead and try and reestablish something that has lost any kind of trust it ever had. Because the fact that we're seeing more people wake up and become more cynical and, dare I say it, becoming more aggressive towards the current system, it does give on hope that people are not going to be consuming this BS as much as independent media is being suppressed. Because just a quick reminder, everybody, just remember who is getting all the figgy pudding, who is getting all the support and love through the algorithm and rhyme. Who are they allowing you to watch and see, and who are they not allowing you to watch and see? Because that's another thing. Because if it's going to be a fair ground of exchange of ideas, look, I want my audience to see my channel, but I also want them to see people that would perhaps be critical of me too. I want to see that because I want there to be a free exchange of ideas. Because let's say I get something wrong or I was wrong about a policy. If another channel is going to call me out on it, okay, I'm not going to get a tizzy like, oh, how dare you say that about me? I'm like, okay, well, gee, how did I F up? So either do I try and correct myself? Do I have to make a defense of it or something of that nature? I don't go ahead and jump on board for cancel culture because it's people who have also all this power that are quick to cancel other people too.
Yes.
It's hilarious. And the fact that there are people who would use the system, be it on any kind of social media, to say, oh, well, this person needs to get canceled. They said something that hurt my feelings. Oh no, get over yourself. All right. And the thing is, sometimes you got to fight back. Sometimes you got to push back. But see, it's a lot of these people who got comfortable,
Yes.
very comfortable with the algorithm, that in turn now are trying to protect themselves because now all eyes are on them, and they could lose all that love, all that adoration, and all the figgy pudding.
And the last thing I will mention, and this is also a reflection of just how disconnected and bubble, trapped a woman like Jennifer Welch is.
Mm-hmm.
There is a legitimate civil war going on within the MAGA movement right now.
That's great.
Anyone identifies with Israel and supports them, the America First MAGA faction, led by the likes of Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they don't want anything to do with them anymore. They're like, get the fuck out of here. This is Israel first is America last. Period.
I would even go a little bit further. I think there's a greater outrage towards Epstein as well, because
yes,
because I remember this in 2019. I remember when the Epstein files got dropped, and it was predominantly people on the right. And what sickens me, a lot of these bigger platforms, like Charlie Kirk, who doesn't want to talk about Epstein anymore, or Dan Bongino, who's now with
wait a minute.
FBI.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that Charlie Kirk, the guy whose entire career has been funded by the Koch brothers, is not actually going to do the right thing when push comes to shove?
No.
I'm just saying.
No, and what sickens me is, like, listen, I would listen to them when they talked about Epstein. And here's the thing. I say this on the left, as somebody on the left, be like, okay, great. Hey, I'm with you guys too. Let's get some baseball bats, find who these people are, and break their legs. It'll be a great bonding moment as a country. We could all work together. It'll be great, left and right. A timeout for one day as we go ahead and get out the heavy industrial wood chipper. But then, Uno reverse card. Oh, we don't want to talk about it anymore. What do you mean you don't want to talk about it anymore? They made a very comfortable career for themselves on the stories of the victims, on the victims who are still alive. There are journalists who even covered Epstein, like got in too deep, who have to be outside of this country because their lives are in danger. Okay, you're telling me now we're not going to be talking about this story anymore? You're telling me now that it's not acceptable, that it's all been one big lie? So for the past 5 years, these same people, these influencers who made a career of this, knew that this was going to happen and then decided right then and there to tell their audience to shut up. But see, half their audience has every right to be furious at them, because think about it. I want everyone to think about this for a minute. Those victims, imagine if that was your sister or cousin, your niece, your daughter, your granddaughter. Imagine if that was a woman you knew. And, imagine if right now, and I said this on my show, and I hope this keeps you up at night. In fact, maybe somebody will just wake up like, oh, I got a shock. But there's another Jeffrey Epstein out there right now.
Oh, yeah.
There are other Epsteins out there now.
There's other Bernie Madoffs out there.
Yep. They are out there right now.
And listen, we're not going to talk about it tonight. Jen and I, I'm saving it for Monday with Jen.
Okay, good.
We're going to talk about DiCaprio. I mean, listen, the signs have always been there. They've always been there. All you had to do was look. You just had to open your eyes and realize, all right, look, he's talented, but he's not as talented as they make him out to be. And there are things that he has done. Dating Bara Fieli. I mean, that's what all you have to do is look at that. There's just so much of it. And all I'm thinking is, guys, they're everywhere. It's always been in your face. You're just like I said, we're living in this new era now. It hasn't fully developed yet, but we're in it. It's happening. The change is happening. And for those people who have always felt that it wasn't possible, that we were stuck, I get it. And you know what? We were just as happy when little things would happen. Yeah. I knew when Zohran won the primary in New York, I said, he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't even need to win in November. He's already accomplished more than anybody could ever hope for, because what his victory in the primary represents is the biggest body blow that the Israel lobby could have ever taken. He's Indian. He's a Muslim. He is a socialist, and he doesn't hide it. He doesn't dance around it like Alex does. He goes right for it and says, no, this is who I am. I think we need to have government-run grocery stores in the city. And then you got Kosmatis, who is the billionaire Greek behemoth, whose own bleach blonde daughter is an influencer in MAGA world. It's like, this guy's having a conniption fit because he was price gouging the shit out of his customers, and he wasn't paying a fair wage to his employees. He was wage theft. Mm-hmm. And now Zohran comes in. He's like, we're going to level the playing field just a little bit. And this guy's going on with Sid Rosenberg and everyone else saying, it's the end of America as we know it. It's like, we know we're living. It's so tough when little changes happen. But I'm telling you guys, you stick with the plan. You stick with guys like Kit and what we're doing. Change is going to happen.
And it can happen. It can happen. And I just want everyone to understand that, you know, okay, I'm not a fan of The Next Generation. I'm more of a fan of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I am a Captain Sisko supporter, okay? Because he punched Q, and Q never came back. There you go. That's canon in my head. One deck from the Cisco, Q never came back. But there was it was an episode in which Picard had to defend a Romulan, I think, Starfleet citizen, and it had to deal with, like, you know, eternal vigilance, because they were trying to create, like, there's like these witch hunts happening, and Worf was like, I can't believe I nearly fell for it. See, when we get a win, folks, the eternal sacrifice is continuous vigilance. You can never let up. See, the greatest trick that was ever done to the American people, that was done to our grandparents and to our parents and to us as well, is that we were told to trust the man in the suit and tie in DC and everything will be fine. Oh, trust our schools and everything will be fine. Trust everything as it is, as you see in the media, and everything will be fine. But then it was all owned up and bought up and consumed by corporations. And the corporations were telling you to consume and obey and not question, because everything will be fine. Well, everything's not fine. And so you have to break it. And that means you also have to be vigilant for all eternity. And that is the lesson that you must teach your child and your grandchild. And in turn, they can teach it to the next generation afterwards. It is eternal vigilance to keep a watch on the flame, because this constitutional republic is not a constitutional republic. We do not practice any democratic values. We have an oligarchy, and this oligarchy can easily transform into something far more gross and frightening if we continue to fight one another. And I'm not asking everyone to be friends. I'm not asking everyone to put aside the beef. I'm not asking everyone to forgive one another. What I am asking for is everyone to wake up to reality. Congress is willing to cover up the most prolific trafficker in international history. Our Congress is bailing out the banks. Our Congress is allowing us to have these forever wars. Our Congress is polluting our air, water, and soil. If we don't come together now, they will kill us in time. They will replace us in time. They will have us in little corporate homes in 15-minute cities in time. If we don't come together and fight, we are done for. And that is the uncomfortable truth.
So I want to share with Kyle a quick thought. Now, I participate in capitalism, as I'm sure you do. You probably have a career or something that you do that might even make you pretty good money. So here's what I would say. If the system doesn't work, and the system is not working, and we do not have a proper balance between government and business, which we don't, the government has been bought by corporate special interests. If the intent is to level the playing field, and in the case of having a government-run grocery store, one in each of the 5 boroughs, and that is going to force the Castamatises of the world to have to compete with fairer prices so that people can afford to eat and afford to live. Again, I don't want the government to take over everything.
Nope.
But if the government steps in and creates a level playing field so that corporate price gouging, aka monopolistic economic practices, don't have to exist, you're damn right, because if you support the free market, which I'm sure you say you do all the time, that is the only way it can work. You need a balance. Just like capitalism cannot succeed without socialism. You can't have it both ways. Just like socialism can't succeed without a free market. You have to have a balance. If you have that balance, then anything's possible. But the problem in your mind is, it's either my way or no way, and that's not the way society works. I'm never going to have everything I want, neither are you, but I will tell you this. I would rather working people have a little bit more so that they can live with dignity than have the super rich get another $1 billion to their name for doing nothing but gouging off of the people doing all the work. And that's me. That's probably Kit. That's probably most people. That's how it goes.
I would also go on here as well. And look, I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm jaded because again, I look at Mandani and I look his win. That caught me off guard because I was fearing that Cuomo's got this. Oh, people of New York City, you definitely forgot the Cuomo years. But then I was like, whoa, oh wow, talk about a win. But people should capitalize on Zohran Mandani's win. Because if that can be achieved there, anything else can be done. Because it gave me hope about what could happen in the Chicago City election. Perhaps maybe this will be the election where things are finally turned up and can finally break the legacy of Old Man Daley. Because the Democrat machine's got to go. People have to understand that it's just not a politician. Because you cannot just put all your trust and eggs in one basket from a politician. You take what happened in the New York primary, and then you try and spread it across the country. And that includes, yes, with third parties and independent movements and mutual aid groups and community organizations. That's how we can capitalize on it because this was a gut check. But you have to implement these policies. You have to try and get these policies done so that a better way can be shown. All right. Because what is currently working now is that, first of all, you have a medical emergency. You're looking at potential bankruptcy. All right. Homelessness. One leading cause of homelessness is, again, a medical emergency. I recently had a panic attack, a full-on panic attack early in June 8th. And, I was in the hospital. And thankfully I was at the VA hospital. And it was a little bit of it was a rough kind of recovery, but I was able to do the show again. But because I was with the VA, I didn't have a big medical bill. In fact, I didn't get charged anything. But you cannot have a nation, the richest country in the world, and it can't take care of its people. You have to have a nation that can take care of its people. And these politicians are casting us aside. They will cast us aside and say that it's okay for us to die in the street corner. That's okay for us to starve. When did that happen?
I would say if I could pick an inflection point, there's been several, but the worst, again, everybody points the finger at Reagan, and he deserves a lot of that responsibility for sure. But in terms of domestic policy, Clinton's the worst president of my lifetime.
I would say it started with Clinton because he was able to do things the Republicans were foaming at the mouth for.
I was able to do things that the Republicans can only wet dream themselves about, and that's what ended up happening. But never forget that I did, with a Democratic supermajority, I was able to do NAFTA. I was able to do the crime bill, and then I did the Telecom Act. But don't forget, I also did normal trade relations with China. And of course, the worst one of all, I repealed Glass-Steagall and fucked all of you. There's no question. He's got 5. He's got 5 all-time policies. And there's others that are bad too. But you have 5 policies that he passed in his administration that were life-changing in the worst way.
Yep.
And then you follow him up with George W. Bush, the worst foreign policy president in the history of this country. It's easy to see why millennials and Gen Zers are as jaded as they are at the world. It's not hard.
And the thing is, when you look at presidents, because I don't want to turn any of them into saints, but if you look at our presidents, they all got punier and weaker after JFK. They all got weaker. And again, JFK was no saint, not a saint by any means, but in regards for having initiative and the idea of the president being the commander in chief, the lion. Oh no, there are no more lions among us. It's like from I, Claudius again. It was when the Caligula saga was happening in I, Claudius, where there's this crazy orgy party that's happening, and Claudius is trying to break up a fight, and one of the Roman senators' wives is like, Claudius, you must stop this. And Claudius he says in a stuttering stammer, I can't. There are no lions among us anymore. And he's trying to desperately end this riot that's happening in this club, or not club, but in this Roman ball that's happening. And it's just there are no lions among us. And the truth is that the people have to become the lions. We have to be the warriors.
Yeah, sometimes leadership, again, kind of like with Zohran, it's like 1 minute you're, just another assembly member, and then the next thing you know, you're in position to be the most powerful chief executive who isn't a president or governor in the world. Like, that's how significant life can change. And I give him a lot of credit. He certainly has, just the way he's handled himself to this point, in a way that Alex never could. It really is a testament to his understanding of the moment, and here's hoping for the best. Do you have time for one more segment before we depart?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I saw somebody, I think, in the chat talk about I, Claudius. So real quick. All right. It was done in the 1970s. I'm going to say this. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I view it very relevant. It's very relevant to what we see in politics today, especially the opening scene. But there's also the book, I, Claudius and Claudius the God, that was written, which was the show is based off of, by Robert Graves. It's a fantastic series. But there's one line in particular in which Caligula, the Roman emperor, is saying to his uncle, Claudius, the stammerer, the stutterer, he says to him, and Claudius had to answer it very carefully. Caligula says to him, do you think I'm mad? No, really, be honest with me. Do you think I'm crazy? And Claudius says, no, never. You set the standard of sanity for the whole world. And the interesting twist is that the Senate, the Roman Senate, gave Caligula all this wide range to pretend to be a god because he clearly had lead poisoning, which in Caligula's defense, the real Caligula, his first year, he was okay. And then he had a seizure, and then that's when things went ham. So there you go.
Somebody really takes pride in their Italian history. Bravo.
Roman history. True Roman history for true Romans. Unbiased history.
If you guys enjoy these conversations, which we certainly hope you do if you've been here for this long, coming up on our second hour, patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. And we do, before we get to our final segment with Kit, we obviously want to address our wonderful supporters who have been contributing this evening. Big shout out to Joseph George, gifting 5 Revolutionary Change memberships. That is a super duper appreciated gesture on your part, sir. And for being a 4-month member, Mario, I prefer Luigi. I get the reference. I think Kit does too.
Yes.
Very, very much so. When I played Super Mario 2, I was always Luigi because he had that super jump move.
Yeah, of course, man. Oh, of course, man. Dude, definitely.
Jamie Slomiak, great to see you as always. Thank you for the $2. Which crayon flavor is your favorite? Go Army.
Pink.
Pink.
There you go. Because why I ain't afraid of pink.
A very big and appreciative shout out to a lovely lady who we haven't seen in a while, but Double K, thank you so much for checking in. A extremely generous contribution.
Thank you.
We hope you're doing well. KK is obviously a big supporter from the upper Midwest and a labor lady, if there ever was one. Thank you so much for being here and great to see you. Piano Man, thank you so much for the $10. What are your thoughts as to the emphatic change in tone by some U.S. senators and other countries on full damage control for the Zio-Nazi state of Israel? Well, it's inevitable. I think that this was something that we could not have not seen coming. Again, as we addressed earlier with Jennifer Welch, the damage control has already begun. It's already happening. Now, there are people who are going to go down with the ship. There is no two ways about it. It's not like anyone is going to get off of that corporate dole, even if it has to be repackaged into something else. But it's pretty obvious from where we stand that this evolution on this issue is an evolution on American politics in general. It's kind of like what would we be in the 6th or 7th party system now? We have been looking for a major shift in this country since the Reagan Revolution of 1981. So we are long overdue for it. And hopefully that's what we're dealing with now. Because remember, Reaganism is neoliberalism of the highest order. And that is what we've lived through for the past 40, 45 years. So to say that we are due for a change would be an understatement.
Agreed.
Kenman, Thank you so much for the $6.99 Canadian A. Big problem are the Guardian reading NATO-loving progressives. Or as Jen likes to say, peppers, progressive except for Palestine, who want regime change in Syria. They are not allies. Hey, we've been saying it for the longest time. This is why we don't F with Anna Kasparian. Because as far as I'm concerned, even though she has good takes from time to time, I will never forgive her for what she did to Aaron Mate. And the fact that she called him a fake journalist, oh my God, lady, I mean, make a public apology to Aaron Mate and then maybe we'll talk. Joseph George, thank you so much for the $5. She can't look beyond her own class interests, and I believe that is referring to Jennifer Welch. Listen, it is always about class. And if you look, whether it is in Chicago, which again, I am sure Kit is familiar with and has experienced it as well, there is no question that when it comes to those that support Israel, especially now, these are people that live very comfortable lives.
Of course.
These are not people that are working class that just happen to be Jewish and support the state of Israel. It is people that live in Highland Park, people that live on the Gold Coast. That's who is supporting this. Now, again, the problem is that it's not this overwhelming majority of people that actually support it. It's a very powerful group that give a lot of money and they always round up the votes. That is where it's our task, as Kit was alluding to, that we have to coalesce. That's our job. Because remember, there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them. Chip, thank you so much for the $2. Hi, Peter. Trying to listen while unpacking. Well, much like listening to a good podcast or good music when you're either unpacking or doing the laundry, I can assure you we're trying our best to make it worth your time. So thank you so very much. Joseph George, again with the $5. I feel like Kit would enjoy the WKYK sketch entitled Time for Guillotines.
I think I will. Go ahead. Somebody send me the link. Obviously, there's Hardlands Media, and there's my own personal X account as well. If you can, just reach out and show it to me, and I will watch it with much joy. Because if it means putting people in the guillotines, let's get out the national razor.
Kenman with the $6.99 Canadian A. Don't worry, DiCaprio will die in the hotel when it turns 25. You get the slow clap for that one. Good job.
That's not funny, but it kind of is.
It's funny and it's sad at the same time. But yes,
exactly.
45-year shelf life for everything.
Yes.
S. Kolachuk with the $2 Canadian A. Intense fragments of spoken idiom best. I will take your word for it. Thank you very much. Tortuga, thank you so much for the $5. Some may question authority. Maybe we should question authority's authority. The good lies in the people.
Exactly.
Again, this is like the argument against the Supreme Court. Who polices the Supreme Court? Nobody. You're putting your faith into human error, which is a problem. And that is why the whole concept of collective governance is what a lot more people believe in. If we were a real constitutional republic, there would be less concern for it. But to pretend that what we are today is anything resembling something like that, no, those days are long gone. And Joseph George, one more time with the $5. Thank goodness for Zhaohong Shu showing so many what a real country looks like. Well, I can't guess what country that is. It's not China, I don't believe, even though I thought that was Xi Jinping, but that's not who you're referring to. Your guess is as good as mine. Kit, do you know who this world leader is for?
You know what? If there's something I don't know, folks, sometimes I like to think I know everything, but I don't. So I will plead ignorance here. I don't know. I will educate myself later on so that way I can give a proper answer for the next time I'm questioned like this.
Well, thank you very much, of course. And for one final topic for this evening, which I think is very, very important. So a statement has been issued by Hamas's leadership regarding how this ends. And here's what they had to say. This, I believe, is courtesy of Sky News.
Breaking news in the last hour. Hamas have issued a statement saying it will not to disarm unless an independent Palestinian state is established. The statement came in response to some media reports in Israel, quoting the US envoy Steve Witkoff about Hamas's laying down their arms. Let's have a look at that statement. Hamas has said in response to media reports, quoting US envoy Steve Witkoff, claiming that the movement has shown willingness to disarm, we reaffirm that resistance and its arms are a legitimate national and legal right as long as the occupation continues. With that break,
I will say this, and this is one thing that was not mentioned in this clip, and I just want to be clear. The condition that Hamas has decreed that they will agree to this with an independent Palestinian state is if Jerusalem is the capital. So they're only doing it if Jerusalem is included. So what that tells me is this is not ending until the state of Israel is dissolved. That's it. I think it's pretty clear. There is no situation where, especially with what having the embassy move to Jerusalem. I mean, we all know that this in some ways is a holy war, but at the end of the day, it's all bullshit to me. I have no love for this shit. And frankly, I don't see it ending any other way. I think that Israel is going to continue to do what it's doing, which is creating enemies left and right. We all know that this situation is going to get so much worse because right now you've got both France and Canada, and there will be others that will, in 1 month from now, at the next UN summit, recognize a Palestinian state. I don't know if they're going to be drawing up borders or something like that, but just the fact that this statement is out there, that Hamas is saying, "Oh yeah, we'll stop. We're getting Jerusalem." Like that's how it's going to stop.
My thoughts are, all rationale left as soon as October 23rd end, when the Biden-Harris administration allowed this war to continue on.
Yeah.
My fear is that whatever remains of Gaza, it will be enough. There only will be a handful of survivors left. That's what I think we're going to see happen. I don't want to be negative here unless more people start speaking out, unless we see some true demonstrations, true shutdowns. If we see some people actually really do believe in their convictions and shut it all down, that's what we're going to witness. The bodies of the dead choke in this region. And I'm not saying this to be negative. I'm not saying like, oh, it can't happen. But the only way any kind of ceasefire is really going to happen is if people around the world actually do step up and take action. And that means us as people saying, okay, we're done. I'm done seeing this on my smartphone. I'm done seeing this on my laptop. I'm done seeing this on my TV. I'm done reading about it in the papers. I'm done listening to it on the radio. Enough is enough. Unless this truly does happen, all that will remain of the people of Gaza will be a huddled group hiding in the shadow of one tree. If we don't,
not leaving.
And I'm not saying this to be negative. I'm not saying anything cannot be done. I want to be clear on this. But unless people around the world are done seeing our inhumanity that we do to each other, this is not going to end. That's what I got to say here. I want to be more. If you talk to me 8 years ago, be like, yes, it can be done. Maybe I'm just too jaded. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't mean to make you more jaded, but we have to play this clip.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
I mean, if this fuckhead thinks that he can continue to talk like this, I mean, listen, I want to see him end up like Mussolini, probably as much as anybody. And I do think it's going to happen because I do think the walls are closing in on him, whether anyone really thinks that's what's happening or not.
Well, everyone forgets that before October 7th, this man had some problems with his government. Like his own people his own government was going to fall apart. Were it not for this war, this man would be out of office right now. He had his wag the dog moment. That's the only reason why he's still there. Everyone forgets about all the domestic policy issues that were surrounding Netanyahu before October 2023.
Well,
Everyone forgets.
To me, and when you talk like this, the only thing that really comes to mind is that, yeah, they organized October 7th. Like that was part of the plan.
Are you familiar with the New York Times article that came out sometime in 2024 talking about like the fact like, hey, yeah, the intel was actually trying to bring awareness to, hey, something's going to happen in October, and nobody ever acted on it?
Yeah, it's funny. They've often said that October 7th is their 9/11. You mean like 9/11 was an inside job here in the States? That was an inside job too? Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Dude, we were actually given a heads up to 9/11. It was even before, way before. Yeah. Are you familiar with the X-Files?
I didn't know that they did an episode that was.
Oh, no. It was a spinoff called The Lone Gunman. Remember Fox Mulder's friends, the three guys who were the lone gunmen?
I wasn't. Listen, I'll be honest. I mean, I was a big Simpsons guy, but even though X-Files came on after the Simpsons, I never really stuck around for it. I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't a big thing for me.
Okay, I will let you in on a little secret. So The Lone Gunman was the spinoff series of the X-Files, and this series came out in the year 2001, and they had their own little show. It was very interesting to see it because it came out in the year 2001, and its first episode came out on March 4th, called Pilot. While the lone gunmen are thwarted in their attempt to steal a computer chip, one of the characters receives news of his father's death. Soon the trio find themselves unraveling a government conspiracy concerning an attempt to fly a commercial aircraft into the World Trade Center with increased arms sales for the United States as intended results. So let's see, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. That episode came out March 4th, 2001, about a plane flying into the World Trade Center.
I could still remember the plane that flew into Corey Lytle, the guy who flew his, the plane that was on the Upper East Side of Manhattan in like June or July. And then when the first plane hit, I was like, did this shit happen again? But I could tell it was a commercial airliner. And then, of course, I saw the second plane, and the rest is history. But the point is, what we are learning is that there really is this Wizard of Oz type government that plays God behind the scenes. There's a great scene in Wall Street when Charlie Sheen confronts Michael Douglas in his office. But that whole scene, everyone talks about the greed is good scene. It's the scene after when Douglas explains to him how things really operate. He's like, price of upheaval, price of a paperclip, and everyone wonders how the hell we did it. Now, you're not naive enough to think we're living in a democracy, are you? It's a free market. But it's the truth. That was the truth. And that was told almost 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. Yep. And this is why a person like Netanyahu is able to operate like he's operating. But here is the response that continues from Democracy Now! In lieu of his response saying there is no starvation.
I just got back 2 days ago, and I spent about 3.5 weeks there, and primarily in the maternity hospital on the grounds of Nasser Hospital. And it was evident to me in my firsthand experience that what I was seeing was malnourishment in my patients, which were pregnant patients, but also those needing gynecologic care. And it was evident by the numbers of babies and their birth weight that was coming out, that they were being born to malnourished women. It was evident in the decreased ability to breastfeed when the newborns were born by the moms. And also in the way that pregnancies had complications that had increased in number, and remarkably so in the last few months of the siege. So there was ample evidence, just clinically by numbers in cases of complications, by birth weights of babies, by preterm babies, and also just being able to look at our patients. It was very clear in my experience and those I was working with that this was really a starvation crisis that was occurring.
It's difficult to see that imagery because, I recently became an adoptive uncle, and I love seeing my little niece. I got a couple of messages from her. See, her parents are people I knew in college, so they're very close friends of mine. And you know, I see her hold on a little present that I got her for the baby shower, and it's a little T-Rex toy, and I'm just thinking, what if that's her, you know, or what if those were my nephews and nieces when they were babies? You know, it's you would think our Senate and House of Representatives would do the right thing. And I think maybe that's why there's still a little bit of shock amongst people. It's like they're expecting our leaders to do something. And then the uncomfortable truth is you got to do it. No. It's not that. It's just you watching at home. You got to do it. It's always been you. They're not the knights on the hill, these politicians. You're the knight on the hill.
Yeah.
You got to do it. It's always been you. They just convinced you that all of you were just too lazy or just didn't understand how things work. It doesn't have to be this way, and it never did.
No.
There you go. That's some positivity I'll just throw out there.
Well, we got to have some of it before we conclude for the evening.
Exactly.
I mean, listen, there are certain people that I personally want to physically beat the shit out of, including one guy.
Be careful, man. You don't want the channel to get hit.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's one guy in particular in Aventura, Florida. He knows who he is. You know, just another, they dehumanize. So when people talk about what does real, you know, bigotry, racism look like, I can assure you that anyone who subscribes to the Zionist ideology and believes in Netanyahu and believes in the mass genocide of these people, they're the worst of the worst. And in the end, we can't save everybody. That's the one lesson I want people to understand. Is that as much as I want to save the people of Gaza, I don't think we can. But you know what we can do? We can end Israel's stranglehold over our nation. That we have the power to do. And that is the fight, more than any other fight, that we have to do. I saw somebody in the chat mention earlier that Epstein is the fight of our time. Let me assure you, Epstein isn't. Epstein is part of the Israel story. That's just one element of it. It is a clandestine black ops operation that was done to control as many powerful people as possible. Perfect example before you go, kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Howard Lutnick is the Secretary of the Commerce. And this is one of Trump's closest allies. But make no mistake, it's a small club and you're not invited, despite Carlin saying it's a big club and you ain't in it. Well, both statements are true. But make no mistake, Lutnick is a prime example of that wretched upper ruling class that thinks they could get away with anything. He's a Zion Nazi. He was one of Hillary Clinton's biggest fundraisers. And he was Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. And he now sits as one of the most powerful bureaucrats in our entire government.
Agreed.
So if you ask me, that's just another example of know who your real enemies are. That's who your real enemies are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So if we fight on those lines, maybe we got a chance.
And
We've had an evolution over the past decade. We've all seen how everything started in the summer of 2015. We've come a long way since that whole Trump-Bernie phenomenon started.
In 2016, oh my God, like an innocent era that was.
Oh,
there's an old saying, and I even quote Claudius again. But with everything that we're seeing here, it was in the final episode. Let all the poison in the mud hatch out. Let it all hatch out. Let all the poison in the mud hatch out. And I think that's what we need to do. We have to let it all hatch out so it can be exposed, and all the lies must be exposed. And that's why we're here as independent media. But it's all of you, the people, too, that have the social responsibility to step up as well.
I think that's a great reference for conclusion, Scooby-Doo's. Great name, by the way, and a great image, by the way. Give you a shout out.
All right, there you go. Not too bad.
The floor is yours. Anything you want to share before you go?
Yes. Well, Hard Lens Media, we are live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central Chicago time on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and X. We have a Patreon page. Please help us out. We also do have a GoFundMe, and if people can, please help us out. We are in a little bit of a legal tussle here and there, but any help to our GoFundMe will greatly help us. And this nightmare. I don't want to say anything more about it, but we do have a link to our GoFundMe to anyone who wants to help us out. Please consider doing so. Check out our show Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central. We also do a show called Sunday Brunch that comes down like around 9:30 a.m. So that might be Sunday. Actually, that's going to be tomorrow, of course. And, I just want to say to people, starting Hard Lens Media was an endeavor of love and dedication. And it's a miracle we're still around. And we owe it really to the people. It's not me. It's not anybody. It's the reason why it existed is because of the support from the viewing audience. And it's the audience itself that has taught me the value and true meaning of this work, because it tells me that I'm not alone and that I can work with anybody across the political spectrum to build a better future. It's not going to happen overnight, but if we work together, we can make it happen. And I want to thank you for giving me the privilege to be on your show. And I hope that some of your viewing audience members will in turn check out Hard Lens, but also in turn to your viewing members, just a bit of advice. You're going to want to like and comment on the videos so that our friends here can have that full view count. I mean, that's going to be a big thing because YouTube is changing its guidelines on what counts as a view, and it puts more burden on you, the audience. It's not fair, but hey, listen, it's going to be for every single content creator. So it's going to count. And for that, independent media owes a huge debt to you, the viewing audience. And so shout out to you guys, 9 a.m. Central, Hard Lens Media. That's when we go live in the morning, Chicago's #1 independent media network, as you should be.
Have a great evening, brother. Great to see you, and we'll talk again soon.
Oh, of course. Count me in.
All righty, man. Talk to you. Great conversation with Kit. And of course, links in the description. If you guys are so inclined, make sure that you get on over there. We've got one more story this evening that I do want to cover, and I saved the best for last. I wish Jen were here to talk about it, but we'll do it ourselves. We're a team. We're an audience, so we have fun. I mentioned earlier that if I can keep one member and only one member of, so Jen is here and she will be in the background listening and enjoying. If there was one member of the liberal class, the liberal establishment class, if you will, that I would keep around as we continue to evolve, it's Jon Stewart. And I'm not just saying that because Jon Stewart is a pretty big Springsteen fan and is from the same part of New Jersey as me. I say that because I truly believe that he cares. And he's trying to do the best he can with the platform that he has the privilege to use. Now, I don't know much about this Peter Beinart, but I believe in the message that John put forth during this interview. So we clipped it. It's a few minutes. It's a few clips. I tried to hone in on the most important talking points. And let's see what Jon Stewart and Peter Beinart had to say about what's going on in Gaza right now.
Thank you for joining us. You are Jewish. I am Jewish. People yell at me about what I say sometimes about Palestine and what's going on in Israel, and they call me a bad Jew. Apparently, you can lose points. What are you experiencing as someone who is writing very clearly about your upset at what is occurring in Gaza?
Well, I have lost, some pretty close friends over this, but I also don't worry about having to feed my kids. They're not starving.
Right.
They're not being killed. I have freedom. I really have an incredibly fortunate and blessed life. And even though, it's hard sometimes to have other Jews really not like me because Judaism is everything to me. It's at the center of my life. I've also met so many other people from so many different walks of life who care about the same things that I do, who believe that all human beings are created in the image of God. And I know a lot of people caricature a lot of these people who care about Palestinian rights and freedom as like being anti-Semitic. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, the vast, vast majority of people I meet, they strike me as like the kind of people who would have stuck up for us when we were in trouble. You know, the kind of people who are willing to risk something because when they see people suffering and being abused, they act. And those are the people who I want to be around.
That's easy for him to say, but as I'm sure Jen and others would point out, this is kind of a Johnny-come-lately situation. And the one thing I will give Beinhart credit for that he points out right at the beginning, he said, my kids are not struggling to put food on the table. That's an understatement. And the other thing that he said, which is something that we have seen with other clips of other commentators in a similar vein as Peter Beinhart. Being Jewish, as he puts it, is a big part of his identity. Not that it's a religion and that is his faith, but that it's his identity. So you can see why so many Zionists out there act the way that they do when it comes to this issue of Israel, because for them, it's their identity. They identify with Israel as part of who they are. That's a very dangerous animal, to say the least.
You know, you bring up such an interesting point, because it does cut to the idea of who qualifies as a good Jew and a bad Jew. And admittedly, I don't know all the different things in the nuance of the history here or what happened in '93 at the agreement that might have turned, but I know what I'm seeing. And I have a moral clarity about what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing, I think, as someone who was raised in Judaism, that's what taught me that this is wrong. What I'm seeing happening in Gaza is wrong. You know, we learn in Judaism, it's funny. You know, you learn that you're the underdog. That's kind of the history.
Right.
You know, I always looked at the chosen people as kind of a wry. You know, when you read the history of the Jews, you're like, you're the chosen people. And you want to say to God, like, if you could choose someone else.
And that is an excellent point by somebody who doesn't see being Jewish as some type of a cultural, ethnic, social advantage, or that it should be treated as such. But you ask any Zionist, one of the hallmarks of what it means to be Jewish, it is an absolute cultural, ethnic, social, economic superiority. That's what they believe. And maybe Peter Beinhart does it in a more friendly, liberal kind of way, but in the end, that is what they believe. That is not what Jon Stewart believes.
But what happens when David becomes Goliath? And the responsibility there, is that what troubles you?
Yeah, I mean, our responsibility is to remember what was done to us, to remember what we would have wanted people around the world. I'm not saying that what's happening in Gaza is the equivalent of the Holocaust or anything like that, but what's happening.
It is a Holocaust, period. This isn't up for debate. It's past a genocide. It is now a Holocaust. And why? Because unfortunately, you still have too many people out there referencing numbers like Bernie Sanders saying only 60,000 people are dead. It's about 500,000. It is approaching 500,000 people are dead, and hundreds of thousands more are going to die because of starvation, famine, malnourishment, etc. That's why you have even the most ridiculous people led by Hillary Clinton saying you need to get food in there. Why? Because they already know what's coming. That's it. So when he is saying that it isn't the Holocaust, sorry, pal, it is.
Happening in Gaza
but it's
bad
not, I mean,
enough.
It may be a slow mo. You know, I saw an article in the Times, Brett Stevens, I think, and his argument was this can't be a genocide because Israel's so strong they could kill them much quicker.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's the most cynical description of a military siege and a purposeful starvation that I've ever seen in my life.
Right. I mean, even Israel's leading human rights organization, B'Tselem, has just come out with a report saying they believe this is genocide. So it seems to me, if we want to remember our history, if we want to honor those in our own families and of our people who were slaughtered and who were genocided, who were starved to death while nobody in the world cared, our obligation is to care. Our obligation is to risk something.
Now, the one problem with what Beinhard is saying right now, this is like a year and a half too late. This conversation should have been happening over the holidays in 2023. That's when it needed to be happening. And instead, we are just over 2 months away from this being 2 years that this has been going on. And that's just unacceptable. But we'll continue.
And I feel like I don't know how to talk to even friends of mine that have gone there. And I imagine they feel the same way about me. But there's an urgency about it now because, like, right now in the situation, we can't be like, but Jews are not getting along with other Jews. Like, that's not the important thing right now.
Absolutely.
How is the world not stepping in and stopping this atrocity? I don't understand this in any way, shape, or form. It's boggling my mind.
It's worse than just not stepping in. It's our weapons that are enforcing this siege, that is enforcing this mass starvation. In November of 2024, something like 8 months ago, the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu for the war crime of starvation. Right?
8 months ago.
8 months ago. And the United States responded by trashing the International Criminal Court, even under Biden, and then under Trump imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court. And so the message to Israel was very clear. You can get away with worse. And so then for almost 3 months early this year, Israel cut off all food, all medicine, all water into the Gaza Strip.
It's a siege. It's a military siege.
Yeah.
No, it's a Holocaust. And what I will say, because again, I would say without question, Jon Stewart obviously has been on the right side of this pretty much the entire time. But a guy like Peter Beinhard hasn't been. And this idea that anything can happen or should have happened, could have happened a while ago, so be it. Obviously, we can't just stop now. We need as many voices out there speaking to what is really going on, period. But Beinhard, like so many others, like Jennifer Welch earlier, they're trying to absolve themselves of responsibility in how we got here. That's why they're acting aggressive and making it seem like they genuinely care now. That's the difference.
Yes, that we are deeply complicit in. It could not happen without us.
Then why can't we use our leverage? Surely the United States can't believe that this is in the best interest of the region. And when Donald Trump says something like finish the job, what job is he talking about? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, the Trump plan made it pretty clear. The mass expulsion of all Palestinians from Gaza. And that is official Israeli government.
But do you believe in the people of Israel would second that? There must be a robust... There
are many Israelis who are appalled by this, absolutely.
Not enough to make a dramatic change in their culture. And that is the problem. You see, the state of Israel can't be salvaged. It can't. And I like how John kind of put Beinhard in a tough spot to say, isn't there like a complete uprising amongst their people that this should change? No, there isn't. There isn't this dramatic shift. 85% of Israelis support the genocide in Gaza. So Beinhard is trying to split the difference here. You can't do it. Jon Stewart's playing coy with him. There's no question.
But the problem is when a leader like Netanyahu can get away with this again and again and again, it actually makes him stronger. The way to weaken Netanyahu at home would be to show Israelis that when Netanyahu does these brutal things to the Palestinians, that there are consequences. Not consequences in human lives. I don't want an Israeli to die. But there have to be some consequences so Israelis see that this is not good for them.
Here's the problem. Once again, there is this attempt, specifically by liberal Zios like Beinhart, that are going to try to pin this on Netanyahu. That this is Netanyahu's fault. This is why all of this happened. We were never for this. It was always a big mistake. That's not the case. It's just not. There wasn't this complete dismissal, which it should have been. But as I said before, the biggest reason they're speaking out now is because the state of Israel is untenable. They can't defend this anymore. Anyone who defends it, I mean, like I said, there is going to be years of unwrapping this. And it's almost like the Nazi hunters. All of these people need to be put on notice, including him. But like I said, what they're really trying to do is diminish their culpability, and they're trying to pin it on a boogeyman and hope that people will buy it. I don't believe they're gonna. But it is our job to continue pushing the message that this will just not be accepted. One more topic.
Remember, Ariel Sharon withdrew from Gaza and Hamas took over. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is going to be, what an interesting moment of opportunity. You almost have an experiment set up. You have, here's what happens to the Palestinians if they choose a radical route, Hamas. But in the West Bank, here's what happens to you if you choose a more moderate.
Right.
And what happened in the West Bank then was not the flourishing of rights. It was the building of more settlements. It was the empowering of settler violence. It was the crushing of the Palestinians' authority to do anything. And I understand, it felt like that was the moment that hope was removed.
And that is a fantastic point by Jon Stewart. We have heard constantly about this bullshit talking point that if it was only for Hamas being in charge of Gaza, that this never would have happened. But in the West Bank, they had a very moderate leadership. And the West Bank is being annexed. So it's all bullshit. Hamas, that's the reason. No, it's just an excuse. And I will emphasize this again. $500 billion worth of natural gas is under Gaza's soil. And we want it. And we are permitting a genocide in order to get it. And then once we get it, we are redeveloping trillions upon trillions of dollars in real estate redevelopment. The Mediterranean Riviera. This has always been about money and power. Nothing more, nothing less. And we have had to witness this genocide in real time. As I said, I feel not even a sense of hopelessness. I feel an obligation to give back as much to humanity as I can. That's my job. And whatever that's going to entail, whatever level of hard work that involves, I will be right there to do it. I can't live with myself if I don't make that effort. Jon Stewart has not done enough. But then again, who has? I don't know who's done enough. Some of the books that I keep, especially in light of everything that's going on, if I must die, think about all of it. It is a tragedy. But then again, it's very tough to know what's going on and not have some way of stopping it. So I said to Kit, say to Jen, say to all of you guys, I'm not sure we can save the Palestinians. But what we must do, what is our mission and should be an obligation collectively that we work together on, is that we dismantle the stranglehold that the Israel lobby has over our country, and with it, the dismantlement of the state of Israel. That's our job. That's what we must do. And every day, we bring another person into the fold who is aware of what's going on and what needs to be done. So let's keep fighting that good fight. On Monday night, Jen and I are going to talk about Mr. DiCaprio investing in a hotel in Israel. Well, you know there's some dirty shit on that guy. Like serious dirty shit on DiCaprio. No question. Especially now. Like, oh my God, this could not look worse unless there's something going on. I think we can all admit that there's probably something going on. Don't know who our guest's going to be just yet. We're working on that. Be lots of other stories that we will cover. But one more time, while you guys are here, and if you are so inclined, as you know, we appreciate any and all support. So make sure you go over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. And it looks like we're doing some decent numbers tonight. So we are obviously very appreciative for all of you guys that have been here. But we also need to give a shout out to our supporters who have chipped in. And we've had a few more. Joseph George, who has been a rock star if there ever was tonight. Don't be fooled. The PA is a collaborationist puppet government. I will not dispute that. Another $5 from Joseph George. If Genghis Khan has modern armaments, he'd wage war like Israel. I mean, a different time, a different place, but you're probably right. And finally, Amir Abdallah, thank you so much for the $5.99 super sticker. I don't know what the A stands for. I believe that's from another country, but thank you so very much for chipping in. It really means a lot. And without fail, our good friend and amazing supporter as well, JG1982 with the $5 super sticker. Great to see you and really appreciate your support. That's our plan, Debbie. A good Debbie. We're working on it. We're all working on it. And if you guys are here and you are so inclined, just continue to do as we really appreciate and ask of you to make sure that you hit the like button, make sure that you are subscribed, and if you're not, please do, and share the stream. And as soon as we conclude the live stream, make sure that you drop a comment, make sure that you engage with other people in the chat, and make sure that you continue to spread the word, for if not, people of Palestine wait another day without salvation. Teresa, thank you so much for the $10. It's truly been an amazing evening as always, but The crowd tonight has really been special and solid, and we hope you enjoyed it. Free Palestine. We'll see you Monday.